Hey, Tony, and Brian, are y'all going to be joining the other sessions too?
Planning on it. I mean, this is going to be a weekly thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be 4 weeks.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
getting very heavy into our direct to seller leads right now. I had about 8 to 10 people sourcing for me constantly. I'm looking at about 4 off-market deals a day right now. So
Nice. That's awesome.
absolutely. I think it's going to open kind of like Tony echoed. Although I'm a broker, I'm starting to try to connect with other people that are going direct to seller in other markets to see what I can drum up, and then also get a second look at my market in my backyard and say, hey, what are you doing? I just threw a tester out actually yesterday, and we're talking with 4 sellers here in my market on opportunities either to take down or to list.
Nice. What are you, what avenues are you doing to reach out?
You mean reaching out direct to seller?
Yeah.
Well, in the past I'd done pull a list and send direct mail, postcards, that sort of thing.
Right.
That was 2019 when I did that. This recently, it's not my system, it's another wholesaler system that I pretty much just partnered with them. They're in another mastermind group that I'm in, and I said, hey, you guys, this is your bread and butter business in the Midwest. Could you try and look at something like this for, show me what the process might look like here, and let's just throw a couple test runs on it and see what happens. So we used a very small piece of data to do it and see how it works.
Nice. So you're working with the wholesalers so they find the deals and bring them to you?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah. What group are you talking about? Are you part of Pace Morby's group?
No, this is just Jennings deal room group.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah.
I'm a part of Pace Morbius, and I got about 6 students of his working for me right now. So
Yeah. No, it's a great resource.
yeah.
I want to say thank you for all your beautiful faces that came here today. Just to take a moment and introduce myself if you don't already know me. My name's Travis, and I'm CEO of Four Rings Realty. And our team's been part of syndications, STRs. We dabbled a little bit into crypto for the first time this past year. We started focusing mid-year on building our own multifamily portfolio without any investors or partners. I've got capital raising experience. I raised $500,000 in my first 2 deals alone. I built automations that really helped streamline that process. My team has property and asset management skills, and we're really excited for what 2023 brings. We're targeting to really focus on scaling this first quarter, continuing that, going the route of buy and hold multifamily without any investors or partners, but at the same time, we're building those relationships in talking with people about maybe JV opportunities. And so, really glad to see you've come here today. Relationships, they're a huge part of this, and I'm sure you've heard, that key elements are making sure that people know, like, and trust you. And you probably heard of the name Hunter Thompson, but when I was part of his mastermind, he definitely would hit hard on it. Just, making sure people know, like, and trust you is crucial to this. And something else that there was a moment, it kind of was like a light bulb for me. It's human nature not to want to be sold to. And if you just think about it like this, how many people walk into a store and a worker comes over to you and says, is there anything I can help you with? 9 out of 10 times, what's your response? No thanks. It's just, there's an instant wall. you're automatically wired to shut them down. And then minutes later, what happens? You're like, yeah, actually could use your help. So it's just natural, and it's the same thing working directly with the owners. You don't want to come across being pushy, and just like with a store worker, if they come across being pushy, they're going to end up forcing you to just leave, and they lost your business altogether. I'm sure another name you've probably heard about is Tim Bratz. One of his videos, there's where he's interviews a guy. He says that the owner of a particular property had several other much higher offers than what he was offering, but that seller actually sold to him. And he, during that video, said that he was actually, asked, why are you selling it to me when I'm not able to offer you as much as these other people are? And the response of the owner, the seller, was that she trusts him. She said, these other people, yes, I'd be able to make more money off of, but she said she has a personal connection with the property, and she knows that he will take care of the property in the way that she would like. So the property just meant so much to her. And so it really, relationships are huge. So I want to talk about the structure that we're going to go through each week. We're going to have, we're going to start out with the poll, just to kind of capture anybody's experience, and what they're trying to achieve at the beginning of the meetings. And then we're going to have breakout rooms that are going to be 40 minutes long. And the structure of them are, you're going to have 10 minutes for introductions, and to pair into 2 teams. We're going to break it into 4 people per breakout room. And one person is going to be a caller, and one person is going to be the seller. And then, so you're going to have 10 minutes for the intro, determine, who's going to be on what team, who's going to be the caller, who's going to be the seller. And after that first team, after their 10 minutes doing their mock call, the other team's going to be, as they're listening in, they're going to be providing in the chat any feedback or comments that they have on the call, what they liked about it, if there's, any areas of improvement to make it better. And then after that 10 minutes, they'll have 5 minutes to transition to the other team's mock call, where the same thing will happen, where you'll get 10 minutes for someone to be the caller and the other person to be the seller, with the other 2 people listening in and, offering any feedback in the chat as well. And then after that, you'll have 5 minutes for closing and wrapping anything up. And that's the time you want to copy any comments in the comment section, so that you can review later. And then we'll all jump back up into the main group again, and then we'll do a closing poll. And the reason we're going to have a closing poll starting next week is, like, one of the questions asks, were you the caller or were you the seller during this event? And that'll help me on the next meeting that we have to try to structure the breakout rooms in a way that you can switch. So if you were a caller this week, next week you could be a seller. I'm going to try to structure it so we don't have 4 callers or 4 sellers in a group, so it remains even. And then there's a really cool feature that we've got. So at the very end, there's an app part of Zoom that they just introduced. It was group photo, and it's a really cool feature that we're going to do for each group. And what it does is it gives you the opportunity to take your own picture to use for the collage, instead of doing just like a snapshot where, maybe somebody's looking away or somebody's half blinking. So that's going to be at the end of each of the sessions. I posted here in the group a link. This is where all of the documents are going to be uploaded to each week. In it already, I'm going to go ahead and start going over those documents. So right here, some of them that I collected are some state calling restrictions. And I think this just really, really helps, so you know when it's acceptable and when it's not acceptable on a state-by-state basis. And some of these that I have in here, yeah, it even includes holidays. And this is just another resource for state calling times. And then this right here, this is a 33-page PDF, but it's got a lot of really good material that goes into the legalities behind it and what type of risks you pose if you are compliant versus not compliant. So this is a really, really good read for whenever you get a chance. This right here, the VA script. So there's two parts to the calling process if you're able to have the opportunity to have assistance like I'm able to. This right here is a cold calling script that they can use, and they can kind of follow through it and ask specific questions in order to determine if that's a good lead at the moment or not. And if it is, after they go through these questions, then they can pass it over to me to establish that next form of contact, to try to negotiate anything or form more of a relationship, really, because you don't want to try to close on a deal the moment you get on the phone with them. You don't want them to turn away. Let's see. This right here, oh, before I get into this, so that right there's the VA script. And right here, I gave it in the form of a Word document and a PDF. But this right here is the particular letter that we use to send directly to sellers. And I gave it as a template, so you can go ahead and copy it if you would like. But this right here, we take the approach of not coming across as needy and, hey, I want to buy your property, right now. It's more of a, hey, let's establish a relationship and, let's just kind of have that conversation. Maybe you don't want to sell it right now, but maybe that sparked the, planted a seed, and, maybe 6 months from now or a year from now, you hit me back up and say, hey, I'm ready to sell. It's so crazy because there's a lot of investor friends that I know that you'll hear just over and over again. And they'll say, I just closed on this, crazy, amazing deal, but I've been working on it for years. Some of the really good ones, it doesn't happen overnight. You got to work on it. This right here, this creative finance guide, this right here, I spent a lot of time on, and I started building this just for my team. But then when it kind of got to a point where I was like, hey, there's a lot of value that other people could take out of this, I was like, hey, let's kind of open this up to a workshop to see if we can't help some other people. Something I've noticed when I talk to investors, if you get on the topic of creative financing, there seems to be a misunderstanding with what it is. A lot of people think creative financing is, they'll just right away say seller financing, but there's a lot of aspects to it. And that's kind of something I'm trying to break down in here to give a better understanding of, hey, there's lots of different options to this. And that's really what creative financing is just kind of what can we creatively do for your deal, for this particular deal, that would make a win-win for both of us. So it's not just a one size fits all for everything. So in here, I list out some, some of the different purchase strategies. And I give some breakdowns on what those might be. I give, there's a following up section that I have in here. This right here is key, following up. This is where a lot of people go wrong. They think that, hey, I tried to make one phone call, they didn't answer, that's it. Or I talked to this seller or owner and they're not interested in selling right now. And so they give up. Instead of saying, okay, would it be okay if I follow up with you, in 6 months? Kind of keeping that conversation going. That's huge. Like this right here, there's the fortunes and the follow-up. Right here, just give some descriptions on some different terms. There's a lot of confusion even when you mention deed and title. So I kind of just broke down just some more explanation on those. Definitely as a, I know Pace Morby, he definitely hits home on those about, how there's a lot of misconception right there with those. And I even, write out what a note is. I included some exit strategies. There's lots of different ways that you can go about it. So I just wanted to give, some of the more common ones, the ones that I'm really interested in the buy and hold. Then I've got in here some key phrases that you can say right here, this top one, I'm probably not a good buyer for you, and I can already tell why. There's certain things that you can say when you're talking to a seller that will kind of change the tone, where when you're talking to them, it takes you out of the light of, it's not you saying, hey, I don't want to be a buyer for your property, for your deal. It just changes it. So they're not looking at you like you're going to try to take advantage of me, but they're looking at you kind of like, okay, it's just an even playing field. I'm just gonna talk to you, directly, let you, explain what's going on, what my challenges, what my struggles are. And, maybe we can work together to find a way to help me while helping you at the same time. And then reasons a seller will not sub to. And I listed some different reasons. They understand it, but they don't like it. They need money for a specific reason, or they're confused by it. And I actually give an example conversation right here on a way that you can kind of explain the process to them. And then reasons a seller will sub to, which is they get a monthly paycheck. They don't have to deal with a loan, tenants, repair, taxes, or insurance. Give you a breakdown on it. Through creative finance, you upgrade the seller from landlord to lender, give you explanations. You save their credit. So like our team, we focus on pre-foreclosure, tax delinquency, divorce, and expired listings. A lot of those cases where if those owners are about to lose the property, they're facing some big hits on their credit. So right there would be a really good reason why they would want to do a sub two for you. They're able to get more money than they would if they were listing it on the market. They get their full asking price, upfront repairs will be needed. All this is negotiable, but I just wanted to kind of give a breakdown because a lot of times owners, sellers, they don't really understand what a sub two is, what seller finance is. So this is kind of a way to try to give you more ammunition and more knowledge on it so you can explain it a little bit better to them. And if you're able to explain it a little bit better, then chances are you'll be able to get that deal closed increases. You've reduced their tax burden, avoid paying capital gains, possibly make some interest on the price, getting some cash in their pocket right away if they need it, much faster and easier closing. Tenants are difficult and the owner's fed up possibly. They can continue getting a return of their money instead of just, their money sitting in the bank and losing. And then I put in here some different rules that I felt was really, really helpful, and understand that not every call, property is a good fit for you, and that's okay. You got to be clear, don't rush, have the seller of the property information in front of you if you can prior to making the call. The more information you're able to have on that seller, it really, really will help out. So like when I went over the VA script, if they're able to get any type of information, for example, I'll reference Pace Morby's call, one of his calls, when his assistants were pre-screening on a particular deal, they found out that that owner's wife had issues with her memory. And so when he was on the phone with that particular seller, the seller was asking, what are you going to do with this property? And he kind of restructured it in a way that made the seller feel much better, and kind of structured it saying that, sometimes they do assisted living. Sometimes they have it set up in ways that the government will come in, and maybe for low income, or maybe for people suffering from memory loss. And so he structured it in a way that kind of would hit home with the seller. And so if there's any way that you can relate even with the seller, that's golden. Try to get that golden ticket. If the seller says, I'm waiting for the right offer, respond, what is the right offer? This right here is something that I actually learned not too long ago. So I wanted to have it in here because it was very powerful. Always get a limited power of attorney to handle the dealings, because if you're doing a sub two, if the loan is still in the owner's name, and let's say, you're paying it off, many years come down the road, and that seller passes away, you fully finish paying off the property, you try to go to the bank to get that deed, and they're going to say, who are you? they're going to give it to the next in kin, have to fight to get it. But if you automatically from the beginning set up a limited power of attorney, if anything happens and that owner passes away, there's an attorney that can already has permission to sign it over to you. So you don't have to worry about it at all. Working directly with the seller, right here, give a breakdown of, what forms and contacts or contracts you use, and you're able to actually use your own purchase contract. You would have a subject to addendum. 4 items to figure out is the purchase price, down payment, interest rate, and term. And documents needed from the seller will be your rent roll, your T12, and have a section, what if the seller doesn't trust you and needs additional reassurance? And if you don't have a strong relationship with them, this right here might come into play if you don't do a good enough job with explaining the process of what your terms are. And this right here kind of gives you a way that if you find yourself in that situation and they're kind of still on the fence, this will give them a little bit more reassurance to be able to move forward on the deal. And then I even, break down what the process would be for that. And I have in here as well, this right here is a really, really great resource. You can either, if you have a creative deal, you can either do it yourself or, and that's with, like all of these steps, setting up, title and escrow, all of it. Or right here, I give you a reference. There's actually a really good creative finance closing specialist company, and for just a one-time fee, and it's actually really reasonable. It's not much at all. They can actually take care of all of it, all the paperwork, the closing, the contracts, and they can even explain the process to the seller. So that right there is a really good resource for you to use. And then just like working directly with the seller, this is working with the real estate agent. And that's going to be a little bit different if there's a real estate agent involved than if you're working directly with the seller. And this gives you just a breakdown on how that works. One of the differences will be with working with a real estate agent, you're not able to use your own personal contracts with them. They're legally bound to using their own state provided contracts. So you can definitely give them your own contract, but it's more of a reference if you did that. And then you can work with that agent to get the information you have in your contract into their state approved contract. And I just give, what's the process here? And the same thing, you can have, you can hire this external company to, kind of take care of all of that for you. And then there's even right here, I give a reference, Westar. And so they're a third-party servicing company. And so, for example, if, you get a deal and you don't want to just pay directly from you to the seller. So like, for example, if the property's fully paid off and they've got no mortgage on it, but they're willing to do a seller carryback and take over, basically they're the bank now and you're making payments to them. You want to go ahead and set up a third-party company like this. And Westar, they charge, last I checked, $17 a month. And this company will actually make those payments on your behalf. They'll take care of it. They'll keep the paper trail. And there's a lot of different benefits for you and the seller from using the company instead of you paying directly. And I give some of those descriptions in this list too. Some questions that more than likely will come your way was, how do you make the payments? And I give a breakdown here. So this one, for example, is a sub 2. And this right here is for, seller finance if the property is paid off. How do you structure insurance is another question that more than likely they're going to ask. What type of spread are you looking for? And in here, I give kind of just a few different ways. These are just examples of how you would evaluate a property to tell if it's a good deal. If somebody were to ask, what type of spread are you looking for? I've seen that more so if it's a larger multifamily property. And so it's already another investor that's the owner. Other than that, if it's smaller properties, they're not really going to know what a spread is. Questions to the seller that you could ask are, are you interested in selling? This right here is huge. Is there anyone else who'd be part of the decision-making process with selling? If you don't want to get to the, spend a lot of time working on it, seller's fully on board, and then you find out, oh, but he's got a wife that's also on the mortgage, and she's part of the decision-making too. So you need to make that kind of clear up front. So if you're going to spend the time working on it, make sure you're kind of working with all of the parties that need to be involved. How long have you been thinking about selling? And a lot of times, if you're working directly with a seller, you're just planting the seed, unless they're in a situation where they're about to lose a property, they're in a bad spot. And just gives you, just some more questions that you can ask for the seller. I wanted to break down some different seller objections and kind of different ways that you could kind of overcome those. And just broke those down. What if the bank finds out there's another lien on the property? Would that be a problem? What happens if you stop paying? All of those. And then I give some different resources. This right here, again, is that creative finance closing specialist. I feel like there's a lot of power in that one because, they're already set up to handle a lot of those processes for you. And so it's kind of like when I read the book, Who Not How. I don't know if anybody else has read it, but if they're already kind of geared up for it, so worth it. And you can spend your time focused on other items. Wanted to give some different platforms for finding direct to seller and skip tracing. Me and my team, we use PropStream, but Reonomy, Get Preview Now, Batch Leads, those are some other really popular ones. And then platforms for keeping track of leads. Podio is very widely used. And then some special credit. Right here's a link to Pace Morby's YouTube. He's super, super big. He's known for sub-2 creative finance strategies. He's been doing a lot of work with Jerry Norton, who also does that. And they do a lot of wholesale deals as well. But what I love about it is even though I'm not in wholesaling, they do a lot of strategies and they teach a lot of things that you can use in those multifamily realms. And they're teaching the creative financing strategies. And so you can use those in any of these, interchangeably. Hey, Tony, did you, from what I went over, is there anything that you think that you could find value in?
Yeah, man, I was just reading through the documents with you as you were going through.
Nice. Yeah. So today's meeting was just to kind of do an intro, kind of go over, those materials. I just want to kind of provide those to people. So, in this next upcoming week, they can kind of look it over if there's anything new that they could kind of take from it before next week's session of doing, mock cold calling. Just want to kind of give a little bit more ammo to anybody, kind of show, this is what we do. And so hopefully y'all find some value in it.
I did have one question here, though. I'm reading it here.
Yeah.
Questions for you on that one. It says take your number of units multiplied by the average rent across all types, get your gross potential rent. And then it says multiply the GPR times 12 and then times 0.4.
Yeah.
It says that takes off all annual expenses. So are you calculating your expenses at 60%?
Well, so this right here is just the formula where this gives you more, like if you know that you're running this number and it works, you can kind of adjust any of these numbers. So if you want to do 50, you can make that 50%. And then the NOI for the next step would definitely, that's going to change for whatever deal. But if you run a 50% or, right here is kind of just being really conservative.
50 depending on the size of the property.
Yeah. This is just being really, really conservative.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, because you definitely know that, if the numbers work at that 60%, run with the deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there any other formulas that you take?
No, not necessarily. Yeah, I just do the NOI divided by the cap rate, right? Then my expense ratios be anywhere from 40 to 50%. Like I said, depending on the size of the property or the strategy we have it as well. So
for any of my numbers, I definitely, I don't like to go below 50. I get a lot of people reaching out to me, like wholesalers, and they'll say that the expense percentage is at like 18%. I'm like, nope, nope, nope. Let's back up on this one.
Yeah, I have a lot of sellers too that are like, oh yeah, and or other wholesalers bringing them to me, and I'm like, they're self-managing, and they say, oh yeah, I guess they are.
Yeah.
I said, well, I'm not going to self-manage, so you better add that 10% back in there.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of self-manage. And yeah, we're actually self-managing right now, and we're planning to continue self-managing just for maybe even, yeah, maybe towards the end of next year we'll look into. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense for us right now to for that expense. And we wanted to just kind of take over that just for the experience instead of just going straight into hiring somebody. There was some really good advice that I was given from another investor friend that was just saying, do it yourself at first, so that you gain that experience, so you know how to properly manage the team that you hire to manage. So it made a lot of sense. And I definitely see a lot of people that try to continue that for far too long and they end up burning out. So there's that fine line. But yeah, but no, are there any questions you have, Tony or Demonte, before we wrap up?
I think I'm good. I'm just going to keep going through these documents here.
Nice. And hey, Tony, if there's anything that you see in there that you feel, would be of value to modify or even to add in there, please let me know. It's kind of just like a living document where I was building it for me and my team, and it just kind of kept growing and growing.
Yeah, one of your resources, you could add CoStar, man. That's where we get the majority of all of our data.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. I actually haven't used CoStar because of the cost.
It's all we use, man. We don't use any of the other ones. We used to use PopStream, Batch, all of them. We don't use any of them anymore. We use REI Reply as our CRM.
Yeah. Are you getting a discount on CoStar from like through work or something?
Nope. We're paying $500 a month for it.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'll add that in there. Yeah, that's out of my budget at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thanks for everybody for attending today. Appreciate it. Yeah, looking forward to next week.
In fact, like you said, Hunter Thompson, he has his event right here in town. I was at this morning.
Oh, really?
At Race Fest 2023 is right here in Louisville.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's funny when you mentioned that. I was like, oh, really? I instantly went to here, as in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah. Well, it's here where I'm at.
Did you go to it?
I did.
Nice.
Days is today, tomorrow, and Saturday.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of events lately that I've really wanted to go to. And because it wasn't on my calendar, I missed it. Like there was like Toby, he was doing a call with Rod Cleef. I think it was yesterday. I would have loved to have been there, but I missed it because it just wasn't right there in my face. So all right. Well, yeah, thanks everybody for attending, and hope you have a great rest of your day and an amazing week.
You too, man. Thanks.
All right, talk to you later.